Hey, DCL podcast fans, it's Steve. As we jump into today's show, it's a rebroadcast of a show that Chris and I were able to do with Lake over at MouseGen. He and Katie run MouseGen, just an amazing YouTube channel where they cover all things Run Disney and a lot of Disney Cruise Line stuff as well. And he gave us permission to put this audio version of the show that we did with him on our podcast channel as well. So I hope you enjoy today's show as we talk a little bit of Run Disney and kind of forecasting what to expect at Wine and Dine weekend this weekend. So as they say, on with the show. Enjoy, everybody. Well, hello, and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly.
What is up, guys? Welcome back. I am very excited to bring you a Run Disney update finally. Now it's been several months, several registrations, and we've got all sorts of news and changes coming to Run Disney, along with Wine and Dine weekend in less than 2 weeks away now. So very exciting. As you can see, I am not here with Katie, but I did bring some friends in to help me hit all of these updates. So we'd like to welcome Steve and Chris from the DCL podcast. How are you guys doing today?
Pretty good. Can't complain.
Doing great. Getting ready to go out on a run for our half marathon training for marathon weekend today.
Very exciting. I just did a 13-mile long run this morning.
You beat me, that's for sure.
Okay. Well, so you ran a half marathon this morning. Cool.
I mean, I do have a race in 2 weeks, so.
But your longest distance for that race will be a half, right? Are you doing the challenge?
Yeah.
Okay. Makes sense.
So we've got all sorts of news. We're going to hit a little bit of all the weekends, but we will focus mainly on Wine and Dine because I think a lot of these updates are going to be the first time we're going to see some of these new procedures. So we'll spend a lot of time going through the different changes that we're going to see with that. Some of these changes, I really don't know what to say about until we actually experience them and see what the process is going to be like. But I would expect then that, assuming they all run smoothly, let's hope Run Disney, that we will see them kind of umbrella to the other race weekends as well. So Wine and Dine, I really think is going to be kind of this guinea pig of a weekend. We do our return to Run Disney here. So why don't we go ahead and we'll just kind of hit on the expo information first. First off, if you're familiar with a Run Disney race, they either run off of a 2-building or 3-building structure. This race is going back to the 3-building structure, I think, to help spread people out. That would be my main assumption there. So you're going to have the 3 main buildings that they use for Run Disney events, the HP, the Visa, and the Advent building. The HP building is where you're going to do your registration check-in, and there are some changes to this.
Yeah, they're going to do a new digital waiver and an expo pass. So for during the weekend, all weekend participants must complete a waiver form prior to arrival for each event you're participating in. This year, you can complete it digitally. A parent or legal guardian will need to sign a waiver for any participant under 18. For those who've been cruising, it's kind of similar to that. They've got a lot of stuff that you have to do digitally now rather than doing it once you get there. To sign your digital participant waiver and save time at the Run Disney Health and Fitness Expo, you will need to log into your Run Disney account, select view and sign your documents in the important reminder section, or select the raced weekend from your registrations. Select view your registration and then select your documents. Once you've read the complete waiver, you will agree to sign the waiver electronically and then type your full name. Please note your name must match the name used during the time of registration. So they want to make sure that you are who you are. Once you've signed your waiver, you will have the option to download or email yourself a copy. I think I would do both. I would definitely download it onto your phone and then also maybe print out a pass as well. Your Expo check-in pass will be needed at the Run Disney Health and Fitness Expo to pick up your race bib. Your Expo check-in pass will be available to you on November 1st on your Run Disney account. Bring a printed or a digital copy of your Expo check-in pass for each event you are participating in and a valid photo ID to the Run Disney Health and Fitness Expo to pick up your race bib. So if that sounds a little complicated, it's all there on the Run Disney site for your check-in process. Any thoughts there, Lake?
I actually think this is a turn in the right direction. First off, I don't think it ever made sense that you had to go there and then print your waivers off or print your waiver at home and then hand them a physical copy of the waiver. Because if they ever actually needed that, could you imagine this like bin of waivers that they have somewhere in the back that just sits there in probably an unsorted filing cabinet for 6 months until everything's over. I don't know why we weren't doing this earlier, to be honest. I think that's a step in the right direction. You can do it beforehand, so you know that that's all ready to go. Now it will be November 1st, allegedly, when we will actually see when we can do these check-ins. So hopefully that all runs smooth. As for the digital check-in, I don't really know if that's going to run that much differently. I imagine they're just going to put a QR code either on your phone or on that printout, and they're just going to scan that and check your ID. At least that's what makes the most sense to me, to do it that way. Because before, you would just show up and you would flip to the page with your name and sign your name, and then they would give you your packet. So I don't think that's going to be a huge difference or really affect any sort of lines anyway. But the waivers, I think, is a big change that's positive.
Yeah, I think so as well, too. It totally makes sense as far as the bins in the back there, trying to find where is Chris Bright's waiver?
They'll never find it.
I want to throw something out just real quick. We just went on a cruise and I totally forgot our port arrival form. I couldn't find it. And DCL, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole here, but DCL locked us. Once we got to the cruise date, it locked us out and I couldn't get on there to print it out again. And so when we showed up, we were just able to use our name since we didn't have our QR code or the actual printed form for the port arrival form. I have no idea what to expect here. So I guess my advice would be to make sure you print it out, have a physical copy, know where you put it for your Expo check-in pass, and maybe take a screenshot of it and save it on your phone. Have several different options of it so you're not like me showing up without it.
Yeah, so that is definitely going to be the biggest change for the Expo. If you look on the guide, it says that the exhibitors list is coming soon. But if you click on the map, it has the whole list of everyone that's currently going to be there already. I don't think there's any like super different ones from what's usually there. Advent Health, Aftershocks, Athletic Brewing Company, I believe, is a new one. They do like non-alcoholic beer. Bondi Band, Jeff Galloway, KT Tape, Pro Compression, Run Disney, Second Harvest Food Bank, Sparkle Athletics, Sparkly Soul, Sparkle This and That, Sweaty Bands. Pretty standard Run Disney booths. It does look like there is less booths than before, which kind of continues a trend that we saw before the events had went away, of expos being a little bit more scaled back. I don't know if they're just maybe pricing out some of those smaller exhibitors, but you don't see Raw Threads there anymore, and they do licensed Disney running apparel. They tend to do expos at the Swan and Dolphin race weekends. I'm not sure if they're going to be there for Wine and Dine or not, though, but you could easily find that on their Facebook, I'm sure.
Wait, they just book the Swan and Dolphin to do their own little selling?
Yeah, they'll book an expo room, and they do like a pop-up shop basically over there. And apparently that must be cheaper than going to the actual expo.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
But yeah, they've done that, I think probably the last 4 or 5 races.
Interesting. If you wanted to buy merch, like in your experience, do you really just have to go on the 5th, like the first day the expo's open, to get what you want? Or do you feel like it's not that big of a deal?
I'm conflicted on this, and I have seen that it sometimes does also depend on the race. I don't know if because this is going to be the first Run Disney race back, if it's going to be a bigger deal. Typically, if there is something that like you are live or die without, then I would suggest getting there on that first day. We're going to go on the first day, but we are going to go later in the afternoon. I have gone at like that 10 a.m. launch, and it really there's lines for things, but it wasn't super crazy, to be honest. So it really depends on what your priorities are. Typically we like to get the pins, but we'll tend to just make do with what they have available when we get there, because we have boxes and boxes of race weekend pins. And we always know, you're going to get the medal, you're going to get the shirt. But if you want that first crack, there are typically things that will sell out.
Okay, so for the actual races, this year it looks like there's a new race start time of 5 a.m. Is that up from 5:30 or something like that? I feel like my first half marathon was 5:30.
Yeah, so it was pretty consistently 5:30 in the past. And for a marathon weekend last year, they tried the 5 a.m. start time. And then because of traffic, it didn't end up starting till after that anyways. But it looks like consistently for every race weekend now, they are posting a 5 a.m. start time. And then we'll get into how that might affect your wake up time and whatnot in just a minute here.
Okay. So the courses are the same or similar to what they did in the past. Parking, all guests drop off at Epcot. Though I suppose in the past for Wine and Dine, they had races starting at Magic Kingdom. Is that true?
Yeah, so how they do it, and this is consistent for Wine and Dine and what used to be Star Wars weekend, rest in peace. So we'll see what happens there. We'll get on that later. For any race that actually starts in Magic Kingdom, the race always finishes in Epcot. So if you were driving or you were taking any sort of Uber, Lyft, anything that's not Run Disney transportation, you will actually get park or drop off at Epcot, and then they run transfers over to MK. So you are finishing at your car rather than starting at your car. And I'm going to guess that that's so that they can kind of clean up that Magic Kingdom area real quick and get that turned around to start parking people to get into the Magic Kingdom that day.
Well, and if you just ran 13 miles, when we did the half marathon, we were staying at Pop and we made the walk through Epcot to the Skyliner back to our hotel, and our feet were like so sore. So it would be nice to have your car right next to wherever you're finishing.
And again, the 5K does still start at Epcot, so that'll be drop off, park, and finish at Epcot.
Because it basically runs around Epcot.
Yeah, you basically
about 3 miles.
do an extended loop around Epcot.
Yeah.
That course seems to be pretty similar to 5K courses in the past. And then the 10K and half marathon course are both very similar to what we've seen in the past as well. They do the kind of backside outside the park. You run the back road. I think it's like Bear Creek Road or something of the sort. And you run that all the way to Animal for the half marathon. You run through Animal, then you run down Osceola. You run down Osceola to World Drive. You run a little bit on World Drive, and then you go on to Epcot Resort Boulevard, and you run through Hollywood. Then you run that back path around to Boardwalk, and then through Epcot and finish. And then the 10K starts at Magic Kingdom parking lot, takes you down World Drive, and then over to Epcot Resorts Boulevard, Hollywood, and then Boardwalk Epcot.
I actually like those routes better. I think I would like them better. I haven't run them, but I think I'd like them better than the Marathon Weekend route, which is like start at Epcot, run to Magic Kingdom, run back to Epcot and finish. But I've always been sad that I haven't gotten to run through Hollywood Studios or through Animal Kingdom. So I would like to do a race that runs through other parks besides Magic Kingdom and Epcot.
I think this course is the more entertaining course because you're correct. The Epcot to Magic one, while you get the joy of running through the castle, you don't get that with this course because you start at Magic Kingdom's parking lot, but you don't actually run through the park. But you do about 5 miles kind of on those back roads. So it's kind of cool to be like in a more wooded area rather than just World Drive flat highway. And you do get, I think, a little bit more park time, especially the Animal Kingdom park is cool. It's usually, for most people, still kind of dark. So you run through Pandora in the dark. So that's always been fun.
Yeah, I'd love to do that one day. So this is the first year they're doing start groups as opposed to corrals, right? So Run Disney will be utilizing start groups to follow health and safety guidelines and manage the flow of participants from the staging area to the start of the race. Your start group designation is a small s followed by a number. So S1, S2, S3, S4, and it's located in the upper corner of your bib. So there's no mention of corrals. I wonder if this is just going to replace corrals.
So I believe so. I actually have a little bit more that I think it's on the Wine and Dine info, but I actually found it under the Marathon Weekend. But it says the number on your bib will determine your assigned start group. Start groups are assigned based on proof of time provided for the half marathon or your estimated finishing time. Start groups are based on anticipated pace per mile for the 5K and 10K. No start group changes will be made at the Run Disney Health and Fitness Expo. So it sounds like this is definitely replacing corrals with more or less just a way to hopefully spread people out a little bit more. And this is the thing that, other than what they've said here, I don't really know what else to say about it until we actually experience it, to be honest.
The only thing I would love is if it wasn't like, can all 20,000 of you, or however many people they're letting run this year, arrive at 4:30 a.m. together and then have to use the like row of porta potties and make the like 1.5 mile walk over to the start line and wait in your corrals for 30 minutes. If the start times allow you to be like, you show up at 5, you show up at 5:30, you show up at 6, that would help, one, with congestion and COVID concerns, and two, it would let some people sleep a little bit longer. And I'm a fan of that.
Yeah, if done well, I think it could be very good. My only concern about some of this is things like me and Katie, if we have different start groups, kind of what point they let you in through. Like, can everyone still go into the kind of like general waiting area and you just can't get into the corrals? For the Magic Kingdom starts, it's not a big long walk like it is for Epcot starts, where you go down and all the way around to the highway. The corrals are basically right there. So it's all kind of next to each other. So I don't know how that's going to affect us. Again, I don't 100% know how this is going to work until we actually see them try to pull it off.
Well, we look forward to you and Katie being the guinea pigs out there figuring it out for us.
We do plan on kind of focusing on content for this weekend, especially being the first weekend back, which is excited. I'm excited to, kind of bring a camera along with and film our way through these races.
Chris, I'm not going to let you be a slacker out there and get your time to be lower just so that you've got a later start group so you can sleep in.
You don't know what I self-reported. Maybe I'll self-report a 16-minute mile.
Are they going to require masks for this?
They were more or less following Disney's current protocol. And I check this page like every couple of days to see if they update anything. So you are not required to wear your mask while you run or while you're at the corral or starting area. Mask will be required for things like med tents. Park restrooms is a big one. So if you're running during a race and you want to use a restroom, either at Epcot, Hollywood, or Animal Kingdom, you are expected to have a mask on you and use that. I'm not sure how or if they're going to enforce that or not, but that is in the Run Disney website. And then also transportation. So the buses the morning of, no matter where you are in that process, they will require you to have a mask.
I think this might encourage people to do the run into the bushes to use the restroom. I don't know why I didn't expect that, because that's how like every other race is. But when I first ran the half marathon, there were hundreds of people just like peeling off into the woods to go use the bathroom. And I was like, oh, okay. That's new. I wasn't expecting that. But, that's coming from me. And I much prefer a porcelain toilet to the woods or to those, what do you call them, porta potties that they have everywhere.
In no way do we endorse, does Lake and Kitty endorse running into the woods to use the bathroom?
No, it's just something you'll see.
How about photos, Lake? Are they going to be taking photos along the way?
Yes, so it looks like there's more or less no changes to the photo pass process. It seems that that's all going to run the same. They have also already released what the codes are. So if you run one of these races and you want to see the codes in the My Disney Experience app or the Disney Genie, whatever we want to call it now, those codes are 2021 wine HLF and then your bib number for the half marathon. The 10K is 2021 wine 10K and your bib. And the 5K is 2021 wine D 5K and then your bib number. And that's all in the expo. It also shows up on the back of your bib. So pretty easy to find there.
And I would assume along the course, they'll have some characters out. That's pretty easy to social distance to probably get some pictures as well.
It basically says there will still be on-course entertainment, but expect changes from how it used to be. So I expect it's probably going to be more like stages float centered. At least hopefully that's what I'm expecting, more of the appear and wave style. But I still do expect that we'll see different characters out. Changes more along the lines of what we see in Disney World or on the cruise lines already.
Well, before we lose Chris, I know that he's probably got some opinions about the medals. I think the medals were pretty amazing this year.
I looked them all up. I love that they're doing Emperor's New Groove for the half, because I feel like Emperor's New Groove is like this overlooked movie, but the fans who love it and quote it probably frequently. it hits like a really niche group of people. It also looks like the medal has some sort of like 3D beaker potion type vibe to it. I can't tell if what's in there is like powder or liquid or something that moves when you move the medal. So it'd be cool to see that in person. But of all the medals, I'm most impressed by the half because it's probably not going to be that. The half is probably not going to be that theme every year. So it's sort of like if you really like Emperor's New Groove and you want a half marathon medal, this is the year to do it.
It's kind of interesting that they've kind of gone away from the whole food theming, even though it's, around Wine and Dine. It's really more villains themed this year. I know that one of your favorite medals, Lake, is I think it was Mickey with a pie, wasn't it?
Mickey with the pie.
Yeah, Mickey with a pie. So I think it's kind of interesting that way. But I love all the colors, and I feel like just in all three of the medal releases that they've done, that they've really put a lot of thought into each one of them, and they all look kind of amazing.
Yeah, I definitely think we've seen, even as we get into some of these other races, a increase in quality. Not that I think that there were bad medals. I mean, there are medals that people don't prefer by all means. But I do think overall we've seen, at least through this year, some pretty clean and cool looking medals. I think they've stepped up their game. Definitely a lot more brighter colors. Seems like a more kind of like printing on it, opposed to kind of that traditional like metal sheen style. I'm with Chris. I like that Cusco's Poison medal, and it is, I believe it's like a glitter inside of the poison vial there. So that is the one I am most excited about. Other than that, I am kind of mad on the villains theme, but I totally get that people are all about it, and that's definitely a reason that people are going to be doing this weekend.
They also didn't get a fair shot at villains, to be fair, because the last time they did villains, it was switched to virtual. So they didn't even really get to see, like, does villains and Wine and Dine work really well? Or should we go back to Mickey holding an apple pie in a colonial costume? But I feel like this weekend will help them see, like, does the type of characters we present really sell the race or not? And also, I know it's the wild card race. I don't even know what it's called. Like, the one that replaced Star Wars is called Surprise Theme.
Literally just
Mystery Madness. Okay, Surprise Weekend. Okay. So I feel like that's their chance to be like, we'll make it villains, we'll make it Pixar, we'll make it Marvel, we'll do whatever we want each year just based on what we think is a popular IP. That'll sell tickets to that specific race, especially because it's going to be hot during that weekend, at least much warmer than it would be during January. So I feel like they need theming to sell that race, but I don't know about Wine and Dine. I feel like Wine and Dine was pretty popular even without villains theming.
Yeah, we'll see. And I think this is where kind of your question about getting to the expo early is going to kind of determine how well this theme does. I think they'll know on the first day based on how the merchandise sells, whether this is popular or not. Because anyone can go to the expo and buy the merchandise. You don't have to be registered for it. So if people are showing up just for this like specific villains themed merchandise and clothing, you could see a big run on it. Again, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure how popular this is going to be. Like I said, it's not necessarily my cup of tea, but I am excited about something different for sure. Like I said, I'll certainly be there, and I'll try to get, my pins and our magnets too. We do love the magnets.
So while we're on the topic of medals, I need to bring up the fact that they've actually released medals for this entire year, except for the Mystery Surprise Weekend, whatever. So we can currently go online and see through the Disney Parks blog photos of Wine and Dine, photos of Marathon Weekend, and photos of Princess. So obviously I've pored over those photos, and in my humble opinion, the best of all the medals is Marathon Weekend. Because they are taking advantage of the 50th anniversary, and pretty much none of the other weekends seem to be really doing that, the Marathon Weekend is the one that's like, this is specifically tied to the 50th anniversary. So the medals have that iridescent, like purplish, orangish, yellow color scheme that, like the iridescent 50th merch has. The way that they break down the theming is Pluto for the 5K, Oswald for the 10K. I've always wanted an Oswald medal. Seth is getting it this year because he's running the 10K. Donald for the half, which, fine. Also, the half and the marathon feature Donald and Daisy and Mickey and Minnie. So depending on the side of the medal, it would be Donald or Daisy, Mickey or Minnie. And interestingly enough, and it might be because it's an anniversary year, but all of these medals have moving components. So even the 5K has a little spinner 5K emblem with the 50th. And then Oswald has like a slider where you can move Oswald across the medal. Donald is a medal that like the center part of it spins, so you can either have Donald or Daisy on the front. Similarly, the marathon is Mickey or Minnie, it spins in the middle. And I'm assuming even the Goofy and Dopey medals move. It looks like Goofy and Dopey might be like on a little pivot on one side of the medal where their bodies kind of wobble if you move them. If you go online and look at those medals, I think they're gorgeous. What do you all think?
I think they look even better than the 25th, which was, I think that was a really nice medal. But I think these medals are really, I'm excited to get the Donald, and I'm actually kind of a little upset at myself for not signing up for the marathon this year, because I really like that one. It is still open. I knew you were going to say that. But I think they, in all honesty, I think they look amazing. And I think I actually like them better than the 25th. So what do you think, Blake?
I like these medals. I think they look clean. I like the kind of 50th infusion, but not full like 50th takeover. We could still see this for the surprise weekend, but I was expecting one of these weekends to have like a full 50th takeover and be just like straight Walt Disney World themed. But I like this kind of blend of the 50th along with the traditional themes. You will actually also see that with the princess medals as well, just not quite as robust. But I really like this as a set. I was very excited that I had decided to make this the year to do Dopey, because I think this set's going to look really cool, like all together.
Yeah, I agree. And then speaking of the princess medals, they don't show both sides. So it's possible that on the back side of the princess medals, there's like 50th branding the way that they have on the half, but they do carry over the like iridescent color scheme for the princess weekend. The 5K is Cinderella, the 10K is Tiana, the half is Mulan, and the challenge is Moana. I don't know if they've used those princesses before. I mean, I can guarantee you they've used Cinderella before, but I don't know what combination of these princesses is new. Maybe you know, like, are any of these new themes for those races?
So I believe Moana and Tiana were both done during the virtual weekend, but this is going to be the first time that they will feature their own in-person races, which I'm very excited about. And I'm kind of happy that Cinderella got the 5K, because you're right, there has been plenty of
Cindy medals, yeah,
races and they used to do like just one princess for the full weekend. So she's gotten that before. I'm excited to see kind of some of these new and technically newer movies being featured for Princess Weekend. I want to see these medals in person. I don't think the pictures that they've done of them quite do them justice, but I have seen some video of it that makes them look even a little bit better. But I'm excited for them. I think they'll be cool.
What do you think, Steve? Are you going to go to Florida so you can get a Mulan medal?
It just doesn't work out for the timing. But I do have a question, since I've never done Princess Weekend or Princess Marathon, Half Marathon Weekend. Like, for each one of the different races, now that they're different, featuring different princesses, do people dress up kind of following that theme? So, like, for like Mulan being the half marathon, will you see more people kind of dressed up, kind of in the Mulan theming during the half marathon?
Yeah, I think in general, people will tend to lean towards what the race theme is. Typically, you can guarantee that that character is going to be out in some sort of capacity. So if you want to match that or go along with that theme, you'll see a lot of that, a lot of group costumes around the theme as well. But people will still do just whatever like princess theme they want to, or not dress up at all. Whatever floats your boat.
Well, I look forward to seeing Chris and his web feet running the half marathon during marathon weekend.
Full Donald outfit, yes, putting on my angry face. I'll also point out, just something that's so funny to me about medals and branding is for the 50th, they don't show any sponsors on the medal. It could be that there's a sponsor just not photographed, but the ribbons around the medal say like Walt Disney World 50th anniversary or something like that. But for Wine and Dine, it's presented by Aftershocks, which are these things that like use bone conduction so that while you're running, you can like hear music without having your ear canal plugged. Then for my favorite is for Princess Weekend, it's presented by Corksicle, which is, to my knowledge, like they make like bar shakers and tumblers and stuff like that. which is also just a funny partner. I guess maybe they probably make athletic bottles or things that you can run with or carry around, but the branding on those medals is so front and center on the ribbon that even in the photographs on their websites, it's like presented by Corkcicle, which is sort of like, okay, I'm sure they paid a lot of money. Maybe, in fact, they paid the cost of manufacturing those medals.
If I had to guess what's happening here, first off, you're right. Corkcicle is a new sponsor, and that's also kind of one of the new like up and coming products that you'll see in the Disney parks right now as well. Is the Corkcicles, which is kind of cool because I think they like started in Florida and are Florida based.
Okay.
Yeah, and you'll notice obviously Aftershocks and Corkcicle are both newer branding. So I would guess you saw newer contracts with that. That might have included, hey, we want the logos on the metal lanyards there. Whereas I believe it's still the same sponsor for Marathon Weekend. So probably a continuation of the contract. It was interesting to see the new sponsor from Princess Weekend. It used to be Children's Miracle Network, and now we've switched to just a completely
capitalistic.
Yeah, rather than like a charity.
Yeah, it's not a charity, it's like a business.
Based.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, Corkcicle, which I will be honest, Corkcicle sells a C3PO like golden tumbler that I want. So it's not like they make nice products. It just surprises me because even with Aftershocks, their biggest market is runners, because runners, cyclists, athletes, because, you know, you want to be able to hear while you're running so you don't get hit by a car. So like you don't have a tree fall on you that you didn't hear the branches cracking. Like you want to be able to hear your surroundings while you run. So anyway, that makes more sense to me than Corkcicle, but you're absolutely right. I'm sure it's a new contract and they're probably helping to pay for these medals.
I do have a pair of the Aftershocks. I actually do like them.
I have a pair of the Aftershocks too, and I run with them. Even though all my other things are like Apple AirPods or whatever, they do allow you to hear well. So I like that.
I will give a little love to Corkcicle. We actually got one of the stemless kind of wine mugs when we were just on our cruise, and we've used it, and it keeps whatever you've got in there, you know, really cool. Or they also have like sport canteens and everything like that. So I think it's a pretty higher quality product to keep whatever beverage you have cool or warm. So
now's the time we should let our listeners know that both MouseGen and DCL podcasts are sponsored by Corkcicle. So this was actually an ad. You've been listening to an ad for the past 10 minutes.
I did just destroy my Epcot metal Tervis mug in the dishwasher, unfortunately.
Oh, no.
So I am due for a new water mug.
Yeah, we messed up our Figment Tervis as well.
Yeah, don't put those in the dishwasher, guys. It doesn't go well.
Okay, well, I hope you two have a great rest of your recording session. I'm going to bounce out.
Can we kind of go back to Wine and Dine weekend?
Because the same thing.
Was there anything else that we wanted to clean up from that weekend that you wanted to pass on to people?
I think we just probably need to hit the post-race party.
Also, you talked about, I think there was like something I missed too. There's no age awards. That's not something that I'm usually in the running for, but do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, they did quietly take that away from all of their races. Typically, first through third for each of their age ranges. I couldn't tell you what they were. It was usually like a 5-year gap. Basically got like, you can see them actually right behind me. They got a cool like plaque, depending on what race it was, I believe for the 10Ks and the half marathons. So I always thought those were like just a neat thing. I would be in a very small group of people who would be disappointed by that, being that they were kind of niche. But I did always think that they were kind of like a cool extra thing. And I don't know, there's something that I was very fond of when receiving.
No, I totally understand that. I think that's kind of a downer that they're taking that away because, you know, somebody like you who puts in the training and the work and really not that all of us aren't putting that training and work into it. I don't mean it that way whatsoever, but, you know, just to kind of be rewarded for that. I think that that's kind of been a neat thing that they have done for you guys that have finished up in the front for your age groups. So it's sad to see that go, but I'm assuming that they'll still have medals for like the top finishers of the overall race winners.
Yeah, so top finishers for each of their respective categories, including push rim, male, female, military, all of that still have the regular awards. It's just the age group ones, which I guess I would say are like a little bit less competitive than just going for first through third in the race.
One of the things that makes us want to come down for Wine and Dine, and unfortunately, I'm going to be working that weekend. I got my annual training, unfortunately, but is the post-race party. And I know you and Katie have been to several of those. Can you talk about that one?
Yeah, so the post-race party is a staple of Wine and Dine. I think it's the biggest reason that Wine and Dine is as popular as it is. It takes place at Epcot during the Food and Wine Festival, kind of right on the tail end there. And something they've done the last few years is the party itself takes place from 9:30 to 12 a.m. So after park closes, and they do keep different rides open for it as well. Typically, all of your big staples are open for that, as well as the food and wine booths. What change they did make in the past is they've actually slowly been creeping up the time you can get into the park. So this year it is 5 p.m., which I think is a perfect time because you could get in there and maybe do a little bit of food and wine, or maybe get a dinner reservation in there. Then you can go and watch the fireworks and then enjoy kind of the fun after party stuff that they got going on. And this is always pretty cool because they usually have all the different characters out for the race themes somewhere or another, as well as different like dance parties and stuff. So it's usually a pretty good time.
I was excited to see, too, that Ratatouille is going to be open. We haven't ridden that yet. I'm not sure if you and Katie have, but I think that's kind of a neat opportunity to possibly get on that ride maybe once or twice during that party.
That's a great point, and that's probably a great way to be able to try to ride that ride. That'll probably be like the most popular thing to do. And then on top of that, you do get a $15 gift card with this weekend. And if you are running the half or the challenge, your ticket for this party is included. If you are not, if you're only running a 5K or a 10K, or you are a spectator, you do have to pay for a ticket. They do still have tickets on sale on the Run Disney website right now. I think they're like $70 or $75, somewhere in that range.
Do you have any sense of how many people actually? I know that a good friend of our show, Steve, over in Tampa, we're friends. All of us are friends together. He's just coming over to run the race, and then he's going back, so he's not spending the night there. But do you have any idea in the past, like how many people show up for the party?
You know, I really don't, but I don't think I've ever, like, typically ride lines are pretty low. So I think capacity is fairly low overall. Like I said, I think usually 20-minute or so waits for rides. A lot of times we honestly will just kind of walk around World Showcase and just like get a feel for what's going on. I don't think I've ever actually made it to 12 a.m. to be honest, but the last Wine and Dine that happened, we went with some friends and we pieced out at, I don't know, probably 11 o'clock or so. And I think they got like most of the rides done in that last hour.
Yeah, I can see. I mean, after you've been up at 4 o'clock in the morning, however early it is that you get up, although we'd probably go back, take a quick nap, and then hit the party. But I do like the fact, like you said, too, kind of like Mickey's Not So Scary. I'm not sure if they did that for Boo Bash this year, but in the past, Mickey's Not So Scary, you could get in a little bit earlier, get that maybe dining reservation, like you said, and then just enjoy the booths or the rides or whatever else you want to do that evening. I think that's a great selling point for this race.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's the big draw for the weekend, being during Food and Wine and then having access to that afterwards. You know, an included ticket to Disney is definitely a big consideration. And especially, I think the half and the challenge are still open. So if you're looking at, you know, $80 to get into the after party, or what, 130 or 180 to run the half marathon, I mean, that's not a bad value for a Run Disney race when you consider both those things.
No, not at all. I guess then to go back to Marathon Weekend and Princess, anything else there that we didn't cover, like?
I pretty much covered everything there. Like I said, I think Wine and Dine is kind of the big umbrella of news, because this is where we're going to see all of these changes. I think after Wine and Dine, we could see, you know, maybe some small tweaks come out to help streamline Marathon. I really think Wine and Dine is kind of like the guinea pig weekend. You know, we saw a slower selling of registration. Like I said, there are races still open, whereas Marathon is completely sold out. I have no indication for any sort of capacity for these, but most of the weekends have been fairly easy to get into, which has been nice. But I think Marathon Weekend is going to be kind of the big weekend this year, to be honest.
I feel like people kind of pulled back on their travel here the last 3 or 4 months, you know, a little bit due to the Delta virus, maybe kind of as it kind of took over the summer. But I feel like people kind of pulled back in the fall with some of their travel plans. But it seems like 2022 might be a different beast, and people are going to want to be able to get back out there again. So I'm looking forward to being down there for Marathon Weekend, seeing you guys and everybody else that's down there.
I'm excited for all these weekends. Obviously, Wine and Dine, first weekend back. So excited for that. We're running all the races, 5K, 10K, half. And we're pretty much focusing on content for those. So lots of filming during the races, that sort of thing. Excited there. And then marathon weekend, my first Dopey, Katie's first marathon. But that weekend, I'm excited because like everyone's going to be down there. You guys, Chris, pretty much the whole like Run Disney crew that we like to meet up with during race weekends. Everyone's going to be down there.
Then that leads into Princess. And then I guess, should we just finish it on with the surprise weekend? Any thoughts as far as what that weekend could entail? I'm trying to think of like what's popular right now that they would run with. No pun intended.
Yeah. So the surprise weekend has been pretty unsurprising so far. Registration was actually supposed to open back in September. That was the initial like release for it. And they just kind of slowly put that on hold. So we don't know anything about this. We don't know any indication for theme. People are speculating that they might, make a return of like Tower of Terror 10 miler or something along the lines. I would love to see something new and unique. And I know I have a couple friends who, said, oh, I'm doing marathon, but I'm not going to do Wine and Dine or Princess because I want to see what this new weekend is. So it will be exciting to hopefully see something new. Hopefully, I wouldn't even be upset if it was just, the standard weekend format, just with new themes. Maybe that will get like a 50th, attraction or park themed races. I would be cool with that. Again, just don't 100% know what's going to go on there.
Yeah, I've got no speculation whatsoever either. I think it'd be kind of cool if they did something different, like you said, as far as maybe some different distances. I love the idea of the park theming maybe this year to kind of like emphasize the parks, but no clue as far as where they're going to run with it. Well, thanks for doing this, Lake. I really appreciate all that you and Katie put out over at MouseGen as far as the Run Disney content and updating everybody on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure if it'll be before or after this video comes out, but we will have a kind of Wine and Dine. We call it our Wine and Dine like hype video or what to expect video. Where we'll talk about our plans specifically, where we're staying, races we're running, what we're excited for. We'll probably hit some of these changes again between me and her and what her thoughts are. So look out for that as well. And then, of course, we're going to have hopefully a plethora of content from this weekend, footage from all the races, our thoughts and reviews on those races, and all of that fun stuff. So keep an eye out for that. Also, keep an eye out on our Instagram, mouse.gen. We'll probably do a little bit of posting on there as well.
Yeah, you guys do some fun interaction with the live stuff too with Instagram. So so I look forward to seeing what you guys come up with and following you guys along all through Wine and Dine weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Steve, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you to Chris, who had to dip out a little bit early. You'll see him kind of come in and out through this video as I kind of change how we talk about things. But thanks again. I always love talking, cruising, Run Disney, or just Disney with you guys. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in January.
Definitely. Same with us. Thanks for letting us be part of your broadcast today, and look forward to catching up with you in January, if not sooner.
Yeah. Well, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, ring the bell, all of that fun YouTube-y stuff. And make sure to follow along with Steve and Chris over at the DCL podcast. They are also on Instagram, I believe DCL_podcast. But they have all sorts of awesome cruising, Run Disney, other travel tip content over on their podcast. It is just a plethora of information, trip reports, all of that. And we always enjoy having the opportunity to be able to record with them as well. But that's going to do it, guys. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Well, that's going to wrap up today's show. Once again, I really want to thank Lake and Katie for allowing us to bring the audio portion of their show to our listeners. You can follow them over at MouseGen at YouTube, also on Instagram, Facebook, and all the rest of the other social media networks. Also, we'd like to give a huge shout out to everybody who's going to be running in the Wine and Dine races this weekend or training for Marathon Weekend. I know there's several listeners that are going to be down there this weekend running the half, the 5K, the 10K. So all the best to you for competing out there, and just have a great time at that party Sunday night over at Epcot. And if you guys haven't subscribed to Lake and Katie's channel at MouseGen, I really highly encourage you to do so. They've got some great content on there focusing on Run Disney and lots of Disney Cruise Line stuff as well. They've got some great video of their cabins, spending time on the ship, and also out at Castaway Cay. You can't get enough video of that being on Disney's private island. So go over to MouseGen at YouTube and you can follow them along there with all the great content that they're creating Well, between now and our next show, if you and your family are heading out on another vacation, staycation, or just getting ready for the holidays, on behalf of myself, Steve, Christy, and Chris, all of us here at the DCL Podcast, we want to wish you be well, take care of each other, and we'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast.
The DCL Podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.